Only a generation or so ago, there were no Chinese consumers to speak of. At least not in the way we usually use the term consumer. People bought things, of course. They bought food and other essentials, clothes, bicycles, and they often aspired to buy more, wristwatches, sewing machines, but they generally bought what was available. They could choose which stall or store to buy from, and they could haggle about the price, but ultimately there was zero choice. Don't like the look of something? Don't buy it, but there's probably nothing else. Fast forward to today, and China is a consumer market like no other. The most remarkable transformation the world has ever seen. It's not just there are suddenly so many people with money to spend, or that almost overnight they have all the brands in the world to choose from. This is now the biggest retail market on the planet, but what makes it special is much, much bigger than the sheer scale of it. To understand Chinese consumers demands an appreciation of the pace at which China has moved and is moving as we speak. I call it China speed. 20 times the speed of any country on the globe. China speed has impacted every aspect of China's development. But put in the context of the change in Chinese consumers, China speed has seen virtually no cars at all to the biggest new car market in the world, with more than 300 million cars on Chinese roads. It's gone from near zero internet 20 years ago, just internet cafes packed with gamers, to a country of around 700 million avid internet users, almost all of them connecting with their mobile device. This leap from no phones to smartphones came at the same time as retailing went mostly from mum and pup shops to state-of-the-art modern stores. The simultaneous surge in technology and in payments from no credit cards to an integrated, seamless digital payment platform that rivals the world and, of course, choice, has been rocket fuel for e-commerce, and rising wealth has been a powerful catalyst. Online shopping accounts for around a quarter of all retail sales now. The fact is all the more staggering when you consider that at least a third of the country's consumers have yet to get an internet connection. Put simply, once Chinese consumers go online, they go shopping. And that's why today over half of the world's e-commerce takes place in China. Consumers now have the money to spend, and they can get anything they want, fast, at China speed. Delivery within an hour is pretty standard in many places, within half an hour increasingly common. Super fast and efficient service is simply expected. But speed is just one of the ways in which shoppers' expectations have changed. When China started opening up in the 80s and 90s, consumers were in no doubt. They believed that goods from the West were definitely best. Even just 15 years ago, a Chinese-made option was something most people only bought as they couldn't afford the foreign alternative. And that wasn't without good reason. It used to be that Chinese factories with a license to export weren't allowed to make their goods for sale in China. So there were two tiers of quality, and the local option was often pretty shoddy. Foreign brands became shorthand for better, and in a highly image-conscious society became shorthand for I have arrived. But with typical China speed, the hunger for all things foreign and the willingness to pay a huge premium for it has been severely challenged. One reason is that now, made in China is actually pretty good, and often it's world-beating. Local businesses realised a while back that happy consumers were more valuable in the long term. They studied what the foreign brands were doing and wanted a share of that premium pricing. So they learnt from it. That meant producing better quality goods for starters. But they also began to appreciate the magic of marketing, of making an emotional connection as well as a sale. They understand the power of telling stories about innovation and provenance, workmanship and design. Chinese brands which previously had been copying or playing catch-up are now often leaders in their category. In many, they're credible, appealing alternatives to foreign brands. And as consumers moved from no choice to an abundance of choice, they quickly became incredibly discerning. Equally comfortable in luxury boutiques, buying online or shopping in a wet market. No longer does a high price automatically signal better quality or higher desirability. And a foreign brand isn't seen as necessarily better. The days of dumping last season's stock on the China market and expecting shoppers to be grateful are long gone. In normal times, around 150 million Chinese tourists go abroad each year. They're sophisticated, savvy shoppers. And designing for Chinese consumers means much more than making it red and putting the year of the rabbit on it. Global brands must now design products in China for China, and they must do this not in the usual couple of years, but in months, at China speed, because this is what Chinese brands are doing now, and there's no shame in buying local anymore. In fact, there's real pride in the success of Chinese brands, especially those doing well abroad. So consumers are happy to choose made in China, and they'll even pay a premium if that's justified. But this is not just patriotism at work. Chinese consumers are buying Chinese brands with pride, not because those brands are local, but because these purchases make sense, and they make people feel good. So if you're an international brand wondering what all this means for your future in China, the task is clear. Be highly competitive on price and justify a premium. Be top of mind not just by bombarding people with advertising, but by telling people powerful brand stories, and by finding ways to make people's lives easier and better. And innovate. Do it fast, do it well, and do it specifically for China. Consumers' expectations of excellence have gone beyond products themselves. Nowadays, consumer service has to be spot on and, of course, fast. If people make a complaint to a business online, they expect it to be resolved within 5 minutes, not 5 working days. Watch out, any brand that lets its customers down, and that's easily done when expectations are so high. There are nearly 900 million social media users in China. Bad reviews travel fast, at China speed. But what makes a good experience for Chinese consumers today is not just the absence of something going wrong. The whole process of browsing, choosing and buying needs to be friction-free. It's now possible in China to pay with just a smile. Shopping also needs to be entertaining or informative. It must be fun or make life better in some other way. An amazing experience is simply expected, and consumers won't hang around for long if they don't find it. People want an experience that can be remembered and photographed and shared, of course. They want to feel special, like something's been done just for them. And in a country where there's still a strong sense of collectivism, people want to do things together, like turn shopping into a game, even when they're apart. Displaying status is no less important today than it was 20 years ago, back when Chanel and Louis Vuitton and a handful of others were all seen as interchangeable. Now there are new, more nuanced ways of attaining and expressing status. Being first in the know delivers instant kudos. The delight of discovery is increasingly important. So while millions used to covet the same collection of luxury items, it's personalisation that's now far more important. Consumers don't want to be the same as everyone else. I used to say that Chinese consumers wanted to stand up, but not stand out. Today, they absolutely want to stand out, especially the young. They want to express themselves through music, video, how they look, what they do, and what they buy. What China's speed has led to is a highly connected, highly demanding, and discerning consumer who often feels pulled in different directions at once, a kind of yin and yang tension that, in its powerful Chinese way, has its origins way back in China's rich history. Here are those yin and yang new forces that will be the defining characteristics of how Chinese consumers will grow and their demands change in the next phase of their rapid development. So, whilst there's growing concern about keeping healthy, especially now, there's also a yearning to indulge, to live for the moment. There's still badge value in having something luxurious, but also respect for getting great value for money. There's an appetite for acquiring more things, and yet a stronger sense that time and experiences are more important. There's excitement about what's fresh and new, an affection for things and brands that have been around for centuries. People want to be themselves, but also part of something bigger. They demand constant connectivity and retain strong connections with their past. With China speed, China's consumers have become sophisticated, proud, discerning, dynamic, and even in these times of a pandemic, incredibly optimistic. In the next 2 years alone, another 150 million people are set to join the ranks of China's middle classes. That'll add up to over 500 million people with disposable income. In other words, consumers. When China began its modern opening up to the world, Deng Xiaoping talked about socialism with Chinese characteristics. And today we might talk about a new kind of consumerism, one with Chinese characteristics.